Hi, I'm Catherine Goshen, a professional astrologer from the village of Nyack in New York State, and I'm passionate about in-depth astrology and getting to the heart of the matter. In this video, I want to talk about the houses, and this is part 2, where I'm going to speak about the rest of the houses. In part 1, we spoke about houses 1, 4, 7, and 10. The angular houses related to the angles, also called the cardinal houses, because they act on the world. And now we're going to look at the rest of the houses. Before we dive into houses 2, 5, 8, and 11, I wanted to mention that a good way to think of houses in general when you're looking at your own chart is the following. Planets are telling you what it is. They're telling you everything about what you're seeing in astrology. The sign is telling you how it is. In other words, how those planets express themselves. We all know that certain planets are happy or comfortable in certain signs. Those are the signs they rule. And they are less comfortable in other signs. And this is telling us always how a planet will express itself. Then we introduce the houses, which are not physical houses in reality. They are constructed using various mathematical methods. Different house systems use different methods, but what I want to bring today is that houses are showing you in your natal chart where things are. So where it is, where is that planetary energy going to manifest? Where is it going to happen in my life? Because the houses bring the planets down to earth. If we didn't have various house systems, planets would simply be up there circling in the sky in their own cycles, and we wouldn't know how to relate them to a time and a place of birth on this planet called Earth. So we need the houses, and whatever house system you choose, whether it's whole sign or Placidus, or you use a different kind of a system, stick with it. You need to have a certain house system that you use for your natal charts, and you use that same system every time, because that is going to eventually, over time, give you consistent results. Right, so let's look at houses 2, 5, 8, and 11 today. These are called the Succedent houses. And they are called Succedent because they succeed on from the angles. And I'd like you to think about this now in a different way, because we are modern people who are interested in our own psychology. So we spoke last video about how the angular houses are extremely important in life development because they represent the formation of the personality, the father and mother, the home and the work, and eventually relationships. Now, whatever's going on with those 4 major areas in our life, if we are having concerns, whether it's early developmental concerns in those areas or concerns later on in life, the angles which succeed on from there, the houses 2, 5, 8, and 11, are obviously going to manifest these concerns. If you have difficulty in the development of your identity in early childhood due to stresses caused by the parents, that is going to show up in house number 2. So this house represents not only your money, your possessions, your financial situation, but it also represents your self-worth. How do you value yourself? And if there are concerns in identity development, It's going to spill over into that second house, and there's going to be concerns with valuing yourself. So it's very important when we look to that second house, we're looking for tangible, literal things like money, wealth, possessions, but we are also looking for something that is less tangible, but just as important, our self-worth. Moving on to house 5, let's begin with house 4, the angular house. Father, roots, heritage, ancestry, where we come from. It's the darkest place under the earth, where the sun god goes to sleep at night. So all that deep, dark, unconscious stuff is located in the 4th house. If there are concerns with the father, with early life development surrounding the home, these issues are going to spill out and manifest in the 5th house, which succeeds on from the 4th. The 5th house is traditionally about children, romance, speculation, and in modern times we use it to see our creativity. Many people who are involved in the arts have a strong 5th house, or they may have the ruler of their 10th house in the 5th house. Nevertheless, what happens when we have concerns in that 4th house, in our early development with the paternal line or with our roots, feeling grounded, feeling structured, that's going to spill over into the 5th house, which then becomes this ability to give love. Because the 5th house is really about giving. It's about things that come through us. Our children come through us. We give birth to them. Taking it to that psychological level, the ability to give love will be challenged if we have concerns in the 4th house, as well as if we have some concerns in the 10th house or in the 1st and the 7th house. So bear that in mind when you're looking at your 5th house. It's a very, very rich house, and it's generally a very positive house. But we need to also know that it has that other, more psychological profile. And when we begin to understand the succedent houses in the form of a cross, which follow on from the angular houses, we begin to understand a little bit more about our early developmental issues and how they then play out in our relationships later on in life. Let's move on to the 8th house. We spoke in video 1 about how houses are always opposite one another. So houses 2 and 8, they form an axis, and they're going to deal with similar issues. So we spoke of house 2, so what is house 8 going to be? It's going to be the value of others, as well as other people's money, other people's possessions. And the 8th house is also traditionally considered a malefic house because it deals with death and suffering. So there's a real association there when you start to think about the 7th house as the house of relationships, and this 8th house succeeding on the worth of the partner, the money of the partner. So this 8th house, if we have concerns in our relationship, they are always going to spill over into that 8th house. If there are concerns with your identity development, and that's going to be played out in your house of partnerships, then often it is manifested through the 8th house, arguing about money, arguing about property, difficulties surrounding putting your taxes in together. The 8th house is very much to do with that. Concerns about processing very deep things. The 8th house is often seen as the house of psychology or counseling, because people who have a lot of planets there need to go very deep in order to understand themselves. So we want to always look at the houses in relation to one another. As you're beginning to understand in astrology, nothing is in isolation. And your ability to understand astrology is your ability to work with integration. Are you able to integrate everything you know and see it as a whole? Because one moving part affects the other. We've looked at the 5th, let's look at the 11th house. So the 5th and the 11th house are working again as an axis. It's like a give or take relationship between the two houses. They're always holding hands somehow. And that 5th house was about the ability to give love. Now this 11th house is about the ability to receive love. Can you receive love from another? Or do you push it away because of early developmental concerns, possibly related to the mother, which is the 10th house? And the 11th house is that angle succeeding on from the 10th. Traditionally, we look to the 11th house to see our friendships, to see our community, how we form groups and how we relate to groups. It can also be people who advise us, our trusted advisors, as well as accolades or awards that we receive from work. It's generally known as a very positive house. Yet there's this deeper psychological side to the 11th house. Are you able to receive love? What does the ruler of that house look like? So the ruler of a house is the planet which rules the sign which is on the cusp of that house. You're going to look to that ruler. You're going to see its condition. And you're also going to see what type of planets are in that 11th house. What are they telling you about how you receive love, as well as about your friendships and all the positive things that the 11th house suggests. I think that's enough in-depth astrology for today. I will make another video about houses 3, 6, 9, and 12. I've just decided this is enough to digest in one video, and we will wrap it all up in the next one. If you found anything helpful in this video, please like and subscribe and post your comments below. I read each and every one, and I appreciate the dialogue. All the very best to you. Until next time.